Welcome everybody back to today's trade recap. So I know I've been lacking a little bit with the trade recaps and everything along the lines of that. I might revert to doing, instead of daily trade recaps, now a weekly trade recap where I kind of just go over everything that I was looking at during the week, the things that I caught, the things that I lost, and the things that I can see that I could improve on, the things I could have seen my students improve on, and what we were looking for during the week in the blueprint, what happened, what we could have done better, what was really good on our end. So coming into that, everything that you see on this channel is for educational informational purposes only. Myself and the blueprint do not provide any financial advice, investment advice, or trading recommendations of any kind. All trading involves significant risk. You could lose more than you invest. Always do your own research. Consult a financial licensed professional before making any trading decisions or investment decisions. So let's get straight into it. I already uploaded the video for Monday's trade recap, so we're just going to go straight into Tuesday. Monday was a dub, if I was not incorrect. Yeah, Monday we milked it. We caught a long out of here, a long over here, and then a short over here as well. And then we caught this forward tested long as well. So coming into Tuesday, I was on absolutely the most wrong side of price. I was forcing shorts. I was just not having it. Only reason I was forcing so bad shorts was simply because I just didn't like how we were moving long. That's just literally the most simple solution I can give it. The overall the overall price action on Tuesday was it wasn't too great. It was very slow. It was very short. I was thinking this was a forward test as well, so that one did not work out. I'm just going to go over the ones that I actually took and then the ones that I can remember. So this is one that I do remember taking. I was simply on the wrong side of price for this. My students, they did end up catching a dub on this as well. They were on the right side of price where I was just trying to force short. So there we go. So my idea coming into this trade was we had Asia break above London highs. Oh no, London broke above Asia highs. It only broke above on the 2 minute. On the 1 minute and on the 3 minute, it was not so great. So I was like, all right, great. Let's see what we can produce. And then coming into it, let me go back down to my 1 minute because this is where I entered. I can see that we had a strong push down after breaking up twice. So I was like, okay, cool. Asia highs could have potentially, I'm getting lost in my words. London could have potentially swept Asia highs and then turned around from there. So this was kind of what I was looking for. I saw a breaker structure down from here. This was an A+ setup for me as well, and it did happen to lose. So I'm not going to be too fussed about it. I followed all of my rules with everything that I did, so it's actually very okay. So what I saw was I'm going to turn the indicator off real quick. So this was our breakup. This was our last breaker structure up. And then I can see that we swept these highs. We turned around with good downward force. And then we broke structure down too. So the next thing I was essentially looking for was just essentially any area of interest, as I always do. Either it's going to be a fair value gap or an order block. Usually liquidity sweeps don't necessarily work in these kind of circumstances, but there has been odd occasions where you can definitely make it work. So in this case, I entered off this order block right here, this 1 minute order block, and I just protected the overall swing, which caused us to break structure down, because I was thinking if we happen to break above this high, then we're going to continue long, and there's nothing I could have done about that, right? But if I had to do it about here or even here or halfway in the leg or something, as you can see, there's still fair value gaps here. There's still potentially an order block right here, which we could potentially come all the way back into, revisit, and then continue going short. And then technically my trade idea would not have been invalidated at that point. The only time my trade idea gets invalidated is if we go above the swing, which caused us to break structure down. So I unfortunately became instant liquidity with this. I understand why as well. So coming into this, if I go to the 15 minute, I entered on a 15-minute retracement into a fair value gap to continue us going longer. As you can see here, there was a tiny gap retest right before we started to take off. As I said, coming into this trade, I was on the complete wrong side of price with this one. If I had the right idea of price with this, we could have potentially entered on something like this, right? It probably wouldn't have been initially too great because this was technically last breaker structure down. So on the 1 minute, ends on a wick, so it's not so great. Let's look at a 2-minute. 2-minute, also the same. Let's say 3-minute. Cool. So as you can see here, this is still technically a 3-minute breaker structure down. Let's just imagine that's a breaker structure, right? And then we can see that this is a breaker structure up. So technically now we're going long. We're coming out of a 15-minute gap. Now we really only just need to be looking for any area of interest. So realistically, all we can see, fair value gap retest here. All we would need to do, buy stop the high, protect the overall swing, because technically we can still very much come down into these points because there is a gap here, and then there is this also overall order block right here as well. So this is something we can very much revisit. I'm not looking too much directly at the overall order block. I'm primarily looking at these gaps in between, which we could do. So this was something we could have taken. Let's see how this plays out just for a simple 1-to-1, and then we can move on to our next trade. If you guys want to catch these live with us in the blueprint, click the link in the bio, the BMT Blueprint. You can have a chat with me, myself. We can see if this is something for you. And if it is, then we can get you jumped into the group. So let's see what we can do. As you can see, it's chopping, right? We can't necessarily control the conditions coming into, and there we go, we hit take profit. So thing to preface all your trades, right? You can't necessarily dictate how the trade moves once you're in it. Because look, coming into it, it was pretty good. I did not mind it. The volume looked pretty good. Maybe, like, it wasn't probably super, super clean, but honestly, it was pretty much there, right? I'm not going to justify that it wasn't there. All of this chop coming into it after, we can't necessarily control that. Let's say we wanted to enter like over here or something, or like, let's say we wanted to enter over here and we had all of this previous price action to look at. We can clearly see that there previously it's been chopping around for a little bit. You're going to want to wait for clear movements up or down out of this area. Whereas over here, you can see that, cool, coming out of a gap, strong displacement out of it, and then a good retest. So look, yes, you can potentially have waited. If you missed this entry, I would have definitely waited for something a little bit clearer. This looks actually all right here, and then this breakup here looks all right too. So you could have waited for something like this, and then you could have even, if you missed this whole move over here, you could have potentially caught something around here too. I think we had a forward test running over here too. So this was our Tuesday London trade. Let's move on to our next trade, which we could have potentially took. Where is it? Okay, something around here. I'm going to just jump on the 15-minute and play it out up until we get to that point. I've already got everything marked out, so I just don't need to remark it out again. I think these were longs that we were taking. Remind me if I'm correct or wrong. There we go. I think I remember this playing out too. So this was Wednesday. Yes. So Wednesday was a beautiful, beautiful day for us. We caught a +3, +1, and a forward test at -1. So let me kind of go into the idea of this so far. So overall, coming into the day on Tuesday, this is an Asia session trade, by the way. I am testing out Asia and London because I just want to see what my win rate is a little bit now, simply because I was previously trading Asia session and my win rate was quite good, but then I decided to transition back over to London simply because it worked a little bit better for me. So now I'm just collecting my data in something which I call the master book. The master book is my data tracking system. I can give you guys a quick look. Let's have a quick look at the master book. Oh my God. Yeah, so the master book is a data tracking system. It tracks basically everything that you need to track. It gives you overall profit factor, this, that, blah, blah. And all the data which I had for my master book was completely different. It was based on old data. It was based on things that weren't necessarily valid for me at this point in time. So I'm just collecting more data to see everything in a holistic view so I can kind of make a plan for myself going forward, and then I do the exact same thing for my students as well. So back to this, we can see that coming into the day, if I go back to my 1 hour, we can see that on the previous day, we were clearly trending up and we're now at all-time highs, or like we're near all-time highs. So if I come back to here to before all of this, sorry, it's a little bit messy, but as you can see, we're near all-time highs, right? We're coming out of this. My idea coming into this day was I want to see either this opening gap filled right here. This was our opening gap down here. Either I want to see this opening gap filled or I want to see displacement out of this area here. So what I essentially did was, this was a high risk trade, by the way, as well, because we had not broken out of this consolidation yet. I told my students, if we're going to take something, or if I'm going to be happy to take something, mind you, happy to take something, I'm going to want to wait for a break out of this range here. And like I said just then, I'm currently collecting data on my master book with a new amount of trades. So everything that I'm collecting at the moment is going to be either high risk, normal risk, or proper A+. So this was definitely a high risk trade, simply because we hadn't cleared this area yet, and we were still in a higher, we were in a gap. That's fine. We had our, yeah, honestly, I'm not even gonna justify this. We should have cleared out of this gap before I took this trade, but like I said, I'm testing data, I'm waiting to collect. So let's say I did wait for us to break out of this. Let's have a look at this trade and let's see what we would get if I had to wait. So you can see we get tapped in and then we get edged by one tick. If I set it at exactly 1-to-1, it would have hit, right? So now let's say I waited for us to break out. Cool. Now we've got a breakout. Let's say I entered from here, right? Off this 1 minute gap retest in here. Cool. Long, slap the long tool over here, protect the swing, and then hit 1-to-1. This would have been a little bit more A+ for me. Let me just have a look over here that there's not more gaps below, because look, on our lower time frame, this looks like the right idea to be protecting over here. But theoretically, if there's something there on the lower time frame, let's say 15, like I just said, if there's a 15-minute gap or something along the lines of that, I'm going to even go to the 30-minute or 1 hour, because there might be something there too. Cool. As you can see on the 30-minute, there's a whole gap here. So I might as well just protect the candle low. Let me just look at the 1 hour too, just to be safe. All right, cool. What I'm going to do at this point in time, I'm going to protect the candle low and then just simply target 1-to-1, because price can very much chop around here, come back, tap into this 30-minute, and then turn around and continue going up. There's no obligation for it to continue sending up from here, because look, we still are technically in a 15-minute gap. We could bounce and play a game of order flow and do something like this. So tap into here, go long, go short, go long, go short, go long, go short, go long, short. So just collect liquidity to continue moving in the direction that we want to be moving in. So let's see how this would have played out, because this is A+. I don't mind this at all. And we've protected a good amount of area. And yeah, let's see. As you can see, we jump into the trade and we're instantly in drawdown, right? That's something, like I said, we can't control. We're gonna have periods where the trades that we enter in are going to be in straight drawdown. We're going to have periods where they come exactly 1 tick away from take profit and they never hit, and things like that are going to happen. But we can't let those things be the reason that we don't get into trades. See, perfect example right here, right? We were four points away from take profit and it didn't hit, right? That's going to burn a little bit. And then we come all the way back to our break even, go into a little bit of drawdown even. And now let me go over my second trade idea here as well. So I think this was it. Yeah, so my second trade idea was here. This was not A+ at all. This was, like I said, I'm risking all different type of appetites just to get my data on my new system. Not my new system, my new approach at the market. So as you can see, this 1-to-1 still hasn't hit from Asia session. So this was just something I was thinking about in London. This was very counter trend. So let me kind of explain it a little bit. We had a 30-minute order block, which was right next to all-time high. So shorting this was very much counter trend. This was probably not going to be your best move. And what just happened as well, we had just cleared up this 30-minute gap right here. So this was a very high risk forward test, and there's a reason I didn't take it as well. As you can see, we're bouncing out of this 1 hour gap too. So there was a reason I didn't take it on a live account. I was just like, you know what, let me collect the data. There's not going to be too much of an issue on it. So I can see that we tested this 30-minute order block. We came out of it. We came back to retest this 5-minute after we've tested this 1 hour fair value gap. And I can see there's a breaker structure up. So if this is going to hold, this is more than likely going to do something like this. Higher highs, higher lows. So like bang, 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 bang. But what did we see happen? There's a 1 minute internal low. Like I said, there's a very high risk trade. So with this, I was like, okay, cool. There's good displacement coming down out of it. Let me see if we can take this higher risk. I only forward tested this because I didn't actually like the clean setup of it. And something like this came up exactly on Tuesday, the actual trade I took, and it didn't work out. It looked basically the exact same and I didn't like it. So I just didn't take it. And I was like, cool, if we break above this, we're probably going to be going long anyway. So there's no point of me holding this short. So let's see what happens. You see we get tapped in here, waffle around, and bang, there you go. We see absolutely no tick of profit, and that's completely fine, right? This trade wasn't even, I would not even say this trade was A+. I'd say it's very internal, very high risk. There's one internal break. If we had to wait for an actual break, it would have been from this low. Because if we waited for a break out of this low, this would have confirmed that we're going short. Whereas if you only took it off of this, it's not going to be too hot because this is still within this low and this high. And if you're taking it between these 2 points, that's internal, right? You're not going to promise anything. This could simply just be a deeper pullback into this, because technically that's still a higher low, because this low is higher than this. Like, it's so simple. People feel like you need to overcomplicate it by being like, yeah, using all this jargon and terminology and whatnot. Simply, there's a low here. The only time you're going to want to take a short is if the next area creates a lower low, which we never did. So yeah, patience is what you need to do in this market, because patience, it's long. So now let me hide this. We've still got the other trade from Asia running. Sorry, I'm rambling right now. So you got this 1-to-1 trade from Asia running, and then you've got this 1-to-3 as well. So that was the high risk trade we were talking about. And then you can see eventually, like, look, we're still chopping around. You can see we attempted it once, we attempted it twice, and then we keep coming back to our entry. But look, there's nothing you can do at this point, because look at what happens eventually. Eventually we hit. And that's exactly what we want to do. You want to be able to have the mental capacity and strength to be able to, jump in a trade at 1:30 and then just sit through it until 6 o'clock. Like, it's a long thing to do, right? But the fact that you can do it, and the fact that you've got data to back up that, okay, cool, if I'm able to sit in a trade for this amount of time, it shows that I'm able to milk the opportunity and to continue making more going forward. And there's going to build mental discipline and grit going forward too. Because if you're just stuck on thinking my trade needs to hit in the first 5-10 minutes of me being in it, look, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. If your data says, yeah, your trade's hit in the first 5-10 minutes, then great. But some trades will definitely take longer. As you can see, this one took 6 hours to play out, but it played out nonetheless, right? Let's say you did interfere with the trade, you decided to move it stop loss to break even, blah, 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 whatever, right? It wouldn't have been too great. It would not have been too great at all, because you could have potentially banked on it, but then it didn't work out. So this is why it's just really good to have data and collect things and stay up to date with your system and your psychology as you progress as a trader, right? Because your circumstances are forever going to be changing. Like with everything in life, right? It's like the weather. You're not going to always be in summer. You're not always going to be in winter. So you always want to be adapting to the new things that do come into place, so you are making the appropriate and the right decisions going forward. So coming into Wednesday, this was, I don't even know why I was on this. This was simply this was a New York session trade. I don't even trade New York. I was just simply awake and I was just like, all right, let's have a look. So what we were doing was we bounced out of a 1 hour gap, and I was thinking, all right, cool, let's take this long. So 1 hour gap here. And then you can also see that there is a 1 hour order block right here. So let me kind of just remove the rest of this so it cleans it up a little bit. There we go. Thanks. Thanks, bro. Okay, great. That's all you need to see for now. So what we can see is, bouncing out of this 1 hour gap. If I go to the 1 minute, and then simply if I go to the 1 minute, you can see that this is our last breaker structure down. So all I needed to do is wait for a break above. I can see that we had a 1 minute gap retest. This is pretty much A plus for me. I just don't trade New York ever, so I was not going to take it. I forward tested it though, and it worked out. And then I don't actually know if it worked out. I went to sleep. So as you can see, where's 1-to-1? I don't know why I was hitting 1-to-3s, but is this 1-to-1? Yeah, pretty much. So 1-to-1. So as you can see, came pretty much close twice and then never hit. And then now you can see we're just dropping. Eventually we hit. And now let's say you wanted to hold for a higher risk to reward, potentially up to this high. You can see that we attempt it. We don't end up cracking it. We could potentially come down a little bit lower and then turn around from there. But let's see what we can produce. Bang. There you go. So that worked out too. So I'm backtesting the month going ahead. Oh, not the month, the week. So as you can see, London, the model that we trade, break and retest, works out in every single session, regardless of what session it works in. Like regardless of what session you're trading in. You can be in anywhere, anytime, any part of the world, and it will work out. So I think that was all I took. Thursday and then Friday Friday. I don't even know if I took anything. Friday I did take something. Yes. So let me kind of skip ahead on the 15 and 5 minute. I might do these going forward. It's a lot easier for me to kind of recap and recall. The daily, what's it called? Daily trade recaps are a lot easier to do because, where is this? Is this Asia? Oh, this is Thursday. Thursday, then Friday. Okay, cool. We still got 2 more days to go. I might just do this because daily trade recaps are shorter and sweeter, but you can't really get too much into depth with it because you're just so much in the system. But when you're going over it for a whole week, it makes it a little bit easier. So what was my idea with this? I think this was just a simple continuation play. Oh, yeah, I think I understood this a little bit. Let me try to understand one more time just so I can give you guys a good analysis. So my idea was this. Can't even lie. I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not too sure why I took this. This was definitely a forward test because if this was A plus, I'd be able to pick it up instantly. Okay, so I think my idea with this was we're coming out of this 1 hour gap. Kind of. You can see that we're in this gap, but we're kind of rejecting it still. So, and then if you really want to argue, you can see that it's tested this gap on the tiniest bit, and then we've rejected nicely, right? We swept this hourly low, came into this gap, and then we've kind of turned around. This was an internal play as well. As you can see, I wouldn't necessarily say it's internal. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was internal. It was internal. Because technically, this was our last break up. Then this resulted to be our last breaker structure down. So now, for us to really take this long, we would have had to wait for this high to break. But that high technically never broke. So that's taking inside here is a bit internal. So my reasoning for jumping into this was because I think I understand a little bit now. Because we had this 15-minute gap in here that we tested. You can also see that there's a 15-minute order block right here. And then if you come back here, I can see that there was why did I enter here? Okay, cool. Yes. So I can see gap retest. See, now there was no break of structure to confirm that we were still going long. Because this is internal. Realistically, we could have just chopped around, continued to chop around, come back down, do this and that. This was a very high-risk trade that I was taking. As you can see, I only protected the correction. I didn't even protect the full impulse. So what I'll do, we'll put on 2 types of trades. We'll do one for the impulse, one for the correction. As you can see, correctional one here, and then this impulse one here. So 1-to-1. Let's see what we can produce. If you guys are like these comment down below. Do you like the longer trade recaps? Or do you like the shorter ones? Because I need to get the idea and understanding of what is better for you guys? As you can see, we're simply just chopping around. This was a day of probably not the greatest conditions. As you can see, coming into the trade itself, it wasn't hot. So the 1-to-1 hit for the correctional one. I never usually do correctional trades. So that's something very different for me. And then there you go. You can see this higher, the impulse one worked out too. This was very internal. As you can see, internal trades work out. Risk setups do work out. But the consistency of risk setups in comparison to A pluses are very different. If you consistently win on your A pluses, you can understand that you're copying a model every single time to the T. Whereas if you're using a risk setup, there's going to be minor variances in each thing. As you can see today, I've been explaining a few risk setups in comparison to A plus setups. The A plus setups, you can tell instantly what an A plus looks like because it's the exact same thing. It's copy paste every single time. Whereas a risk setup is a tiny bit different because look, you can see here, okay, cool. There was no break. On the last risk setup we took, there was an internal break. On probably another one, we probably didn't break out of a certain chop. We might have not had a higher time frame. There could be a multitude of variances in those trades. So when you have a lot of variance within a set of data, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to track the consistencies and the irregularities within something that works and what doesn't work. So the easiest thing you can do is just simply follow an A plus setup because that's just going to give you peace of mind, simplicity, and clarity when you're going into the charts because you know exactly what you're looking for. Whereas if you just have, let's say, 3 out of the 5 things, right, it could potentially work out. But if it doesn't work out, you're probably going to be thinking, I might as well have just waited for my A plus, my 5 out of 5, or my 6 out of 6, or whatever, however many steps your setup is to play out. And then I would have been more beneficial because at least if it doesn't work out, I would have known exactly what went wrong, what went right, how I could have potentially improved. Whereas if I'm working on a system that has variables to the original 5 out of 5, I'm still going to be able to see what went wrong, but I'm probably going to be thinking in my head, I should have just waited. So that's just a little bit of food for thought. That's something it was reinforced in my mind this week as well, because you can see there's so much variance when you're taking risk setups. So it's good to see. So let's hide all of this. And then we can see that we had another long setup coming in here. And this was coming into London session, this one. This was an Asia session trade. This is now a London session trade. So as you can see, we got entered. This was a continuation play. I think I remember taking this one. Yeah, so we can see that we broke above Asia clearly with good momentum. And then we had our second break. I always like to wait for 2 breaks before I take anything. As you can see, this was a high risk setup. We entered on we only took the first Asia session break and then we entered on the second one. So like I said, I'm in a testing phase. I'm collecting data. I'm understanding what's working, what's not in my new refined system. So as you can see, we took it on the second one. Usually I would just wait for another area of interest to form. See, if I did do that, I would have potentially waited for this gap and then entered on the high of this and then protected down here or potentially even down here, given that there might be liquidity within here somewhere. So what have I done? Okay, I'm just going to leave this super small and then I'm going to do the exact same thing here. So this goes up here. This comes down here, 70 points, and then 1-to-1. Cool beans. So let's see what happens. So as you can see, this one probably doesn't even get entered into. Cool. Okay, cool. So at this point in time, I probably would have exited looking to jump into this trade simply because we've come so deep. We've retraced quite deeply into these higher time frame gaps. Sorry, you can see on the 5-minute we came to test it, but we probably didn't get tapped in. On the 15-minute, there is actually no gap. And then let's look at the 30. Yeah, look, honestly, it doesn't look too bad, but the fact that we've just swept all-time highs does not give me the utmost confidence of wanting to get into this, because if we've just swept all-time highs and we're failing to break above, that's kind of giving me an indication that we might not want to continue going long. So hence why it's always good to wait for extra confirmation when you're taking things like this, especially at all-time highs. So let's see how this kind of plays out if we even get tapped in. Okay, cool. So you can see we get tapped in and then we instantly turn around. And now you can see I've kind of jumped in for a little bit of a short play here. So you can see the ideas for the longs. Let me explain the ideas for the shorts. So you can see break a structure. This is our last break up. Where is the lowest point between here and here? You can see that's right here. Break a structure here. Great. So now we have an idea that we might be going short. Cool. Now you can see 1 minute gap retest. Protect the swing up here. Target 1-1. I don't even know if 1-1 works out, if I'm being super, super, super honest. See, when you're in a situation like this, shorting all-time highs is not great. But when you've got the setup to kind of do so, it looks great. So look like right this, right? You can see we tapped in, we start chopping around, and then I've got no idea why this is on my chart. I have no idea why this is on my chart. Yes, as you can see, the first long trade we took stopped out, right? That's completely part of the plan. I understand exactly why this got stopped out, and it's happened to me multiple times before, simply because I didn't wait for the extra confirmation. This trade, we waited for one break, but we never waited for two. A lot of people might not even wait for the first break and then just take something long, which is, look, it might work out for you, but my system and my data tells me if you wait for break one and break two, then you take a trade, this should continue going up, right? But then as you can see here, this is where we would have looked to get entered into. If I hide this, this would have been where we're looking to get entered into, right? But if I'm seeing something like this chop around for like 45 minutes, I'm probably not going to be so keen, because I'm seeing that there isn't enough momentum and pressure to kind of just jump out of one of these gaps and then push straight through and to continue go long. So that was my thought process behind not getting into this long. But if I did get into it long and I lost, I would understand that, okay, cool. This is just simply part of a losing statistic, part of an overall picture, which is going to help me go forward, right? And this is just simply data. I'm not going to let it bite me in the ass. I'm not going to chase the loss. I'm not going to let it just like ruin my psychology because I took a loss doing something that I've got statistically proven to work, right? So this trade, as you can see coming into it, it's not looking too hot. Like, what's really going on? We're going up, we're going down, we're chopping. And look, this is, like I said, you can't control the conditions after you get into a trade. You can most certainly control them before you get into it. If you can see that at this point, the trade's not looking too hot, like right before you get in, that's something you can definitely evaluate and have a good look at if you want to get into it. And then as you can see, eventually we do get stopped out. And then the idea for longs does play out. Is there any reason why? Like, it's always good to reevaluate a loss and just have a understanding of what could I have, words aren't wording, what could I have potentially done better? So what I like to do is I like to go on multiple different time frames and see, is there any opposing areas of interest which price could possibly be bouncing from to continue going in the opposite direction, right? So on the 4 hour, not really. On the 1 hour, look, you could potentially say this order block right here, but it doesn't even look great. It's valid, don't get me wrong, but the price action on all of this is very wicky. It's not the best, but order block is still valid. So that could probably have been our winner. So you can see the 1 minute and the 30 minute do have a shared order block. And then there is a tiny sweep in here as well. So you can see that there's a tiny sweep there. So look, if I was actually trading this short, like if I was actually going to take this in a live market, I probably wouldn't be considering too much of this because this looks like low resistance liquidity. Taking this short, first of all, in a long market is a bit sticky, right? It is a bit sticky. I won't lie. Waiting for longs to confirm would have been much better play. Waiting for something to break above like this would have been the best thing you could have done. Simply, why are you trying to short a market that has been rallying for, that looks like this, right? If you keep trying to catch the top of the trend, you're going to lose every single time but the one time. And that one time that you do win, it's not going to make up for all the losses that you lost. So there's no point. There's realistically no point. You're going to catch an ego, and then you're going to keep doing it going forward. And then there's no point, because you're not going to be able to continue doing that going forward. You're always going to try to catch the end of the trend, try to be a sick cunt, just try to be the G, but then you're going to be broke with an ego, thinking, yeah, I caught the top of the NQ move, price dump, this, that, blah, blah, or I caught the bottom, blah, blah. Nobody cares, bro. Just follow the trend, take it up or down. Right, cool. Coming into Friday. Friday was a great trade, I won't lie. I remember this vividly. So, coming into Friday, we had multiple areas of interest coming into the day. We swept our 4-hour lows. We had a daily fair value gap below as well. We had an hourly fair value gap as well. Was it? Who we lying to? Oh, it must be tweaking. Like a daily sweep, 1 hour, a daily sweep, 1 hour sweep, 4 hour sweep. So we can see that we swept in multiple time frames. I swear there was a gap in here as well. I swear there was an extra something in here too, extra little bit of spice. You can see that there's an order block. And I'm telling you, there was a little bit of extra spice. I think it was the order block that I was talking about the spice. So you can see there's a 4-hour order block as well. I'm just going to hide this so it makes it a little bit easier for us to view. And then, cool. So what I saw was, this was a bit of chop, I won't lie. This was a bit of chop. This was also another risk entry. I will definitely say that. So you can see that there's a bit of chop going on. We swept these lows, and then we bounced, and then we had a good rally up. Only reason I was taking this as a risk entry was simply because I saw the rally that we were taking, and it was looking quite good. So I remember there's a shared fair value gap here, a lower time frame. 2 minute, you can see, looks good. 3 minute, looks good. 5 minute, also looks pretty good. 15 minute, looks good. 30 minute, looks pretty good. And the 1 hour looks pretty good. So I decided to just protect the 1 hour low. I think it's just a tiny bit above it. And I took it off this break here. I'm understanding it is an internal low. If I really wanted to wait, I could have just waited for this to break above here and then take something there. But I liked the momentum and the push after we swept these higher time frame lows, and it looked pretty good. So let's see how this plays out. As you can see, chop. We get entered in, we come back down, come back up, and then bang, 1-to-1. Very simple. Very simple trade, not much to look at. And then later in the day, we were looking for some continuations. Let's have a look at those. That was NFP. So as you can see, we came back down a little bit. And even if you did want to hold this longer, say potentially even up here, let's see what happens. 1-to-4. Oh, shoot. Sorry, we just skipped half the other trade. Cool. Now, coming into, I'm just going to hide this because we know what we're looking for. I'm just going to put a horizontal ray up here so we know if the other one's going to hit or not. So hide, and that's all-time highs as well for us. So what we can see, break one. See, in this scenario, let me explain why it is imminent that we wait for break 1 and 2. So as we can see, what does this look like? CHOP, chop. Does not look too hot, does not look too great. Taking something directly coming out of this is not ideal, it's not smart. This was a forward test because I had already won on the Asia session trade for the 1-to-1. This was a 15-second trade I am testing out as well, right here. This, as you can see, doesn't work out. That's why we test things before. Oh, does it work out? It does work out. Great. Sorry, I take that back. But that's why we test things before we actually put them on a live account or even on a funded account or whatever, right? You don't want to be testing things that you don't have data on, because then you're going to cook yourself psychologically thinking, why did this not work out? Why did this not work out? When realistically, you don't even have data on it. Why are you taking something that there is no proof of concept behind, right? And even if someone else has data on it, You don't. You need to be able to understand it correctly through and through to know if you're executing it properly. Because let's say you're following some IG influencers system and whatnot and blah, blah. They might be executing a little bit differently to you. And that little bit of difference and variance is going to be the biggest thing, because that's going to be the reason that they succeed, and that's going to be the reason that you're not. So it's always good to have your own data that you're backing things off. So as you can see, the initial lost for words again. One breakup was good. You can see second breakup, risk entry. It eventually worked out. As you can see, we're chopping around again here now. Now, this would have been an A+ continuation that decided to unfortunately not work. So, like I said before, why is this something that didn't work? Let's have a reevaluate of what's going on. Cool. As you can see, when we go to our higher time frames, we've simply just come back into this 15-minute gap here. We did test it before, but it looks like we've just come back to retest it again. Simple solution, 30-minute gap retest, 30-minute order block retest. Now we could potentially go long. So let me hide this one. Let's see if we can potentially find a long off of these. Cool. So where was our last breaker structure? Up. Breaker structure up. Breaker structure down. So now this is technically our last breakdown. See, you can see on the 1 minute ends on a wick. Well, let's see, 2 minute. 2 minute ends on a wick. 3 minute. 3 minute looks so good. So simply, all we need to do is just look for any area of interest. At this point, you could have, there's nothing that's come up here. You could have potentially entered over here, protected down here. Bit of a large one, but it's fine. Doesn't matter how big the stop loss size is, as long as it's at your invalidation point. So let's see what we can get. Let's see if we took this and if it would have worked out. And we're still waiting for our previous trade to hit as well. So let's see what we do. As you can see, we're just chopping around. There's not much we're doing. And then we hit, right? This would have been a lot more A+. Simply, what did you have to do to get into this trade? Wait. That's it. Just wait. That's it. Nothing more than just waiting. Because as you can see, if you jumped into here, you might have been a little bit eager. Jumped into here, probably a little bit of a risk entry. Jumped into here, that's a lot better because you got your higher time frame you're working with. You got your break and retest. You got your lower time frame breaker structure. Amazing. Let's say you wanted to target all-time highs. Even, I tell you what, let's set a tiny bit more because it's 1 to 2. Nice round number, just because. Great. There you go. Our previous trade would have hit, and this trade would have hit as well. So, key lessons from today: always wait for your entries to come up. Don't be too fussed if your A+ setup doesn't work out, simply because it's a point of data you're collecting, right? Don't try to force things that aren't necessarily there, like shorts at all-time highs. Learn from my example on Tuesday. And yeah, if you want to be in the loop with the blueprint and what we do, click the link in our bio. We'll be happy to have you in the group. And let me know if you guys prefer the longer overall videos or you like the shorter and sweeter 10 to 12 minute videos of me recapping the trades. Yeah, either I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.